Well, the COVID-19 crisis obviously is not under control yet. Other crises are lurking around the corner, from Brexit and conflict in Europe's neighborhood to increasing inequality, rising populism. And to face all that, to face these challenges, Europe will have to reinvent itself. And how that can be done, that's what I try to explain in my book. COVID-19 is of course a major health crisis. It's the second pandemic already in the 21st century, and it comes with a large human cost globally, but also within the European Union, where more than 140,000 people died. 140,000 people, that's more or less the number of people who died in the nuclear attack in Hiroshima in 1945, which had a major impact on international politics. So it comes with a human cost. But of course it also comes with a major socio-economic cost. Millions of people are losing their jobs. It catapults us in the largest global recession in almost 100 years, and it doesn't seem very likely that we will have a quick, speedy economic recovery. And all this is very important, but what is even more important for me is that COVID-19 is first and foremost an environmental crisis. It is a result of how we deal with our natural environment, how we deal with biodiversity, with climate change, with air pollution, with deforestation. And this is the main thought that I try to express in the first part of the book. It's also the main thought in the afterword, written by somebody who has inspired me a lot, the American economist Jeremy Rifkin. Yes and no. On the one hand, the European Union has used every single health crisis in the past 25 years to better prepare for the next crisis. But on the other hand, it is a reality that the budget for health policy at the European level is very limited, and that most of the responsibilities are in the hands of national governments. And this created some tensions, this created an expectation gap. European citizens are looking towards the European Union to handle the crisis, to tackle the COVID crisis, while most of the decisions had to be taken by national governments, while most of the instruments had to be used at the national level. And this created tensions, this created lack of coordination, this created some disappointment. In my book, I call the response of the European Union a roller coaster ride. In the beginning, when the crisis broke out, the European Union reassured itself into inaction. Everything is under control, no panic. But at the end of February, it became clear that nothing was under control, especially in Italy, where there was an explosion of infections. And then the European Union immediately moved to a mode of selfish improvisation. There was a lack of solidarity. When Italy asked for help, not a single member state reacted. It's only from the middle of March onwards that the European Union moved towards real crisis management. And then after the proposal made by Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron on the 18th of May, it really started to prepare for a more sustainable recovery, and that's where we are at this moment. Well, every time when there is a major crisis, solidarity is the first victim. This was the case in the banking crisis, when every member state first tried to save its own banks. This was the case when the swine flu broke out and member states engaged in a rush for vaccines. And this was also the case right now, when some member states tried to keep face masks and protective gear for their own citizens. So at first, in early March, European solidarity was really at the low. But then something changed. In the midst of the crisis, member states begin to realize that they are all in this together. They realize that it's actually in their own interest to help the others. And then we saw some very nice examples. Member states started to help each other. They made hospital beds available for other patients. They sent medical equipment, teams of nurses and doctors to other countries. They helped each other with the repatriation of citizens. And that is, of course, the true spirit of European solidarity, but it's very unfortunate that it always takes time before it kicks in. Definitely, in my book I mention at least 5 lessons to be learned. One, strengthen the short-term capacity of the European Union to react, to respond to a crisis, and the capacity to foresee, to predict future crises. Two, really make work now of the concept of European sovereignty, because this crisis really has shown how dependent the European Union is on face masks from China, on medicines from India, on all sorts of technology from the United States. Three, we should be braver in promoting our European way of life. The way the European Union handled and is handling the COVID crisis is pretty unique. It's characterized by a strong emphasis on protecting the right of privacy, on protecting the rule of law. There can be no compromise on that, on trying to defend a multilateral global solution for global problems, on showing solidarity, global solidarity with African countries, for example, or with Europe's neighborhoods. This is really the DNA of Europe, and we should be prouder of that. Four, this crisis also shows that it's necessary to complete the Eurozone, to be less dependent on permanent interventions of the central bank. And five, it's very important now to speed up the work on the European Green Deal. It's crucial that the money that we invest now is money that we invest in the new economy, in a sustainable economy, and not in the old economy. So these are 5 lessons, pretty ambitious, but very important. I do believe so. I think that many people saw firsthand how comfortable it is to travel in an area without borders. It's something we got used to, it's something we started to take for granted. It's also important that the European Union is there to support companies that are close to bankruptcy, or to support people that are losing their jobs. And I think this crisis also showed that globally the European Union is really standing alone. There is no one else to rely on but ourselves. So I'm convinced that this crisis basically showed that a stronger Europe in the world is no longer only a luxury, but really a necessity.